All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. We'd love you to support this show. Please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Your likes and subscription helps us to grow and attract interviews and content. So please retweet and share our posts. Your contributions are appreciated. All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. This is going to be a special feature that straddles the line between the Demo Story series, the Inner Sanctum podcast, and also obviously what we regularly do on the KissFAQ podcast, and that's pontificate and talk about Kiss. Today's episode is inspired by all things Kiss's exploration of the band's 1974 Central Park photo shoot. And if you haven't checked that out, please do, because it's one of the coolest things that I've gotten to geek out on in recent years about the band and its history. And they did a really, really good job of mapping the group's path from getting ready for the photo shoot to going through Central Park. And it was super fun to, watch them go through New York City, even with all the scaffolding, and many of the places that I have seen, but I haven't connected with the story and the events that day that they did the photo shoot. So it's motivated me to do a short feature on something that's about to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And that is, of course, the January 31st show at the Winterland in San Francisco in 1975.
A big San Francisco welcome for our special guest tonight, Kiss.
I walk by this hotel or motel nearly every day. It's not far from, where I spend a lot of my time. And for many years, I've never really connected it with the events of that day or that time period. So it's kind of nice to now go back down there, shoot some video of it. Obviously, it doesn't look anything like it did in 1975. Neither does the surrounding area. The Winterland itself is long gone. It was torn down in the summer of 1985 and replaced with some soulless, mass apartment building, which obviously the city needs, but a live music venue did disappear at that time. One where, Aerosmith had played, the Grateful Dead played their last show, Rush. You can just go through the list of groups, Sex Pistols, obviously, as well. I believe that was their last ever show in 1978 at the Winterland, and that's another great recording. You can go watch Link Ray as well. Another great video from 1974 was shot there. So, you basically name them, they played there in the 70s. The last show, I think, took place, New Year's Eve, 78. So it was closed for quite a few years before it shut down. So I don't have any pictures of that I can really show off here. Some from, the Examiner and other local San Francisco and Bay Area press, just to show what it looked like inside and out. But, the video itself is one that's been long celebrated by fans. Andrew and I talked about it on one of our Inner Sanctum podcasts in 2024. And I'm not going to, go over all the stuff that we talked there. You can go check out that episode because it was fun to do with Andrew. It's currently one of the earliest circulating Pro Shop videos, if not the earliest. The Coventry show shot on a single tripod cam in 1973 doesn't quite count, as that's anything but professional, even if it's really cool. But for me, as a new fan in the mid-1980s, when the Kiss Exposed video came out in May 1987, it was this video that really hammered home the band's long and broad history. I knew about the makeup by that point, even though I hadn't been a fan during the makeup period. But black and white, the intro to that scene, which I'm going to show here.
Wait, much back up. Tape over here. What? This is vintage stuff.
This stuff, never before seen. Never before seen. This is a bootleg tape, 1975. Nobody's ever seen this. Joe, put it on.
You can show this one.
You'll like it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it's like this bootleg recording. It really does make it seem like it's a whole different band, which to me in 1985, 87, it certainly was. I didn't connect that band from Tears Are Falling and All Night and Who Wants to Be Lonely, the videos that were in circulation on MTV at the time, with the glorious Makeup History. So to this day, Winterland holds a special place in my heart simply because of the power of that black and white performance on the Exposed video. It may seem stupid now, nearly 40 years on, to still have that impact when we've seen so many other things in the years since. But every time I see that, I smile. I didn't realize at the time, Watching You was featured on Kiss Extreme Closeup in 1992.
Doesn't quite make it. So we decided to completely ignore the glam thing and go for black. Black and white was going to be our theme.
I'm standing here, not quite away. And I'm trying, baby, trying not to stare.
And then Nothing to Lose was featured on Kiss Confidential in 1993.
You got nothing to lose.
And then the whole video started leaking as well. It became available on the collector's circuit in, I think, 1993, but maybe slightly earlier, who knows, but probably in relation to one of those two video packages coming out. Parasite comes out on the Kiss My Ass video in August 1994. We had 4 songs officially released from that video on Kiss's main video packages, and all of those VHSs were super important at the time. They're very much a part of the time where bands were releasing these video packages and collections. Motley Crue Uncensored, Aerosmith, did a bunch of them as well. That they really became core to us as fans, or at least to me as a fan at the time, even before Kissology came out in October 2006. And that's where, a version is on that video. And Andrew and I talk about it. It doesn't look that great. There are, some of the earlier copies look better. To my eyes, the version from the exposed video still looks, absolutely glorious, but maybe that's because my rose tinted glasses are tuned into 1987 a little bit more. So the purpose of this quick podcast episode is to dig into the history of what was going on with Kiss at the time. Kiss had spent a lot of January 1975 on the West Coast. They'd ranged from British Columbia and Canada down to San Diego near the Mexican border. During that time, in addition to their own theater bookings, they're, doing opening slots for Wishbone Ash, for ZZ Top, and then playing on bills with both of those bands, at least Fresno. And I've never been able to confirm if that actually did take place, but it was still scheduled at the time. So once Neil Bogart drags them from the road and cancels shows in Denver and Salt Lake City, Kiss were in dire enough financial straits that Mike McGurl had to go to Casablanca and beg for $200. So, here's some receipts from that just tie in with the whole time period that lead up to the Winterland show. The Winterland gig itself was announced in mid-January in the San Francisco press, and the first ads started appearing, the earliest of which don't have the treatment given by renowned artist Randy Tootin, who obviously did a lot of illustrations for Bay Area music press at the time. So looking at the ads, you get The Sounds of the City announced, special guest Kiss with Eli and Third Rail, both of which were local bands in the Bay Area. The tickets were $2 advance, $2.50 at the door, and that's quite a bit cheaper than, a lot of the tickets were going for shows. So The Sounds of the City was a budget event. Here's an ad from the Stanford Daily, including the Hotter Than Hell photo, which is a little bit different than some of the usual ones that were used at the time. So Kiss completed their demo sessions on January the 25th, and the tour continued with that scheduled show in Fresno. And then it was followed by a gap to the next date, which is the January the 31st show in San Francisco. The booking there, fit nicely with the group's desire to continue building their exposure. Even at a, budget appearance such as the Sounds of the City concert series. And just a little bit about that series, Bill Graham had started doing those bookings in October 1974. And the whole purpose of them was initially to showcase local talent at the newly refurbished Winterland at the time, and it was a budget $2, $2.50 at the door ticket. So groups originally had to compete for addition to the bill. While it sounds benevolent or self-serving, he was investing in the future, but it was really more about economics. There was a press report in the Santa Rosa Press Democrat that detailed Graham representatives explained that they could no longer afford to book big names into anything smaller than major sports arenas. At the same time, the economically squeezed ticket-buying public is shying away from middle-status performers in favor of spending their available dollars on the superstars, even if it means watching them on TV screens set up in the cavernous coliseums. The answer for those more interested in the music than the name will be low-priced events, such as Graham's Sound Series. So it was about getting bookings at the venue. It was about getting asses in seats and people, able to see music for the sake of seeing music and emerging talent, but most importantly to, keep the venue booked. However, by January, it was clear that the original format wasn't working. He'd started off booking Tuesday nights, which ended up being a tough slot to fill, especially for these lower echelon bands that didn't have the exposure or name recognition. So Bill shifted the series to the weekends when major acts weren't booked, which is why, the shows were taking place on Saturday and Sunday and sometimes Fridays by then. He also supplemented the local talent with higher visibility acts who might not be booked separately. So Kiss certainly fit that bill. They didn't have enough name recognition in many markets yet to stand on their own. So combining them with some local talent just made good sense. And they were already kind of doing that on their theater bookings elsewhere. Now back to the Vagabond, which is one of those cool places. It's like, again, I walked by it every day nearly, and it was anything but a dump at the time. It was built in 1959 and just 2 miles away from the Winterland over on Post and Steiner, so it was a convenient hotel to stay at. A couple of cool memos that do circulate. Actually, it's Bill Aucoin's accounts is that he arrived, I think, on the 30th from Kennedy and took a taxi from the San Francisco airport to the Vagabond, and he and the band stayed there. And here's another memo from February the 1st. So they're done with the show there, and there's his taxi receipt from the hotel to the San Francisco airport and then to the LA airport afterwards. So I think their next show was the final show of the tour in Santa Monica. So here's J.R. Smalling's planner. The problem with the Winterland video, and fans can debate which version is better, and obviously which one suits their tastes, the most, is that there are glitches throughout. It's imperfect. It's raw. Winterland often gets, discussed mainly because of the two other appearances the group made at the venue in June 1974 and a year later, June 75, both of which are presumed to have been videoed. There's been a lot about talk about whether those still exist. Is there any real evidence available to show that either or still exists? No, there aren't. There's hearsay. There used to be posts online with $10,000 attached to it in the very early 2000s for the 74 show, actually being in private hands, but whether it remains in private hands is unclear because time's running out for anything to be done with those commercially as the group clearly fades a bit more and becomes avatars. So time will tell whether any of those videos really did make it out into circulation, or whether this one, which is turning 50 this January, still exists. So you can check the track listing on Kissology for the set performed now. It's just the standard set from around the time, pretty much. Deuce, Strutter, Got to Choose, Hotter Than Hell, Firehouse, Watching You, Nothing to Lose, Parasite, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond, Cold Gin, and Let Me Go Rock and Roll. And I think the Kissology version simply fades out at the end of the show, while the fan versions return to the end of the show. Stage rap from Paul, but I'm not going to go and rewatch all the different videos that have been remastered over the years to varying degrees to see how much is complete and how much isn't. It would certainly be nice for the original tape that was used for Exposed to have been transferred properly, which doesn't seem to be the case for Kissology. But again, go watch the video with Andrew, the Inner Sanctum podcast episode for that. Now, obviously, the show took place and then did appear in the press the following day, or a few days later, actually. The San Francisco Chronicle review on February the 3rd pretty much summed up the Bay Area mentality towards the group, which is kind of weird considering some of the bands that were active here at the time, such as the Tubes. So that local review simply said, Kiss takes the cake. The ludicrous hard rock quartet that appeared Friday at Winterland may be the most crass, most worthless rock band to run through town in years. A blitz of radio promotion and record store giveaways preceded Kiss into San Francisco, and more than 1,000 curious spectators showed up for the concert. The music the band played contained few, if any, moments of interest, mostly just a drone of monotonous power chords. To create excitement, Kiss performed a number of stunts, like the fire-breathing bass player, or hoisting the drum set above the band during a number. Bombs, dry ice fog, sirens, various fires, and explosions punctuated the entire set. A neon light display of the band's name hung above the stage. Lighting was unbelievably simple-minded. The band leaped out of total darkness to sudden brightness at the beginning of every number. The musicians themselves moved like programmed automatons who had been told about rock bands but never actually seen one. The entire performance was silly but not funny and barely worth dignifying by comment. San Francisco Chronicle did not get Kiss, clearly. I disagree with all of that. Here's another review, this one from the California State University of Sacramento's State Hornet. I would think students would be a little bit more hip, but then again, let's find out. For those who felt brave enough to endure poor weather and the long drive to Winterland, they became active participants in one of this year's best hard rock concerts. Following local bands Third Rail and Eli, Kiss, a group of four glittery musicians from New York, set Winterland ablaze. From the visual array of feats conceived during Kiss's 2-hour set were bassist Gene Simmons' portrayal of a fire-breathing dragon, and later in the show, during the song Black Diamond, he spewed out blood flauntingly at the maddened audience. When the group proceeded into an older number, Firehouse, the stage immediately flickered with crimson red lights and wailed with the sound of sirens. Guitarist Ace Frehley shot a streaking sparkler into the surprised audience. The overall visual act was well presented and obviously required a lot of time and precision in making. Lead singer, rhythm guitarist Paul Stanley collaborated well with Simmons, producing some of the evening's better vocal performances. Hotter Than Hell, Strutter, Parasite, and one of the best all night, Got to Choose. Peter Criss soloed well during 100,000 Years on drums, as did Frehley on extra hard rockers Parasite and Cold Gin. Both songs began with simple rhythmic beats and progressed into thundering, frantic frenzy. Kiss's departure from the stage was marked by 3 encores and the presence of Winterland's famous spacey mirror ball. The ball merely added another dimension to the evening's vast visual gymnastics performed by the men in argent. Kiss was a special guest in the continuing Sounds of the City shows held at Winterland. A crowd of nearly 1,200 braved the weather and attended one of the most eye-catching shows from the nation's top hype bands. That's pretty cool. All right, so the score on these reviews is 1 for, 1 against. Make up your own mind. And as the Winterland 1975 celebrates its 50th anniversary, I've got one strong recommendation. Go and watch it, or listen to it, but celebrate it. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.